Hey, Inebri-arts, before we get into the show today, I just wanted to talk to you about today's sponsor. So I was talking to my daughter the other day, and I asked her what the date was, and she said that time has no meaning and numbers aren't real, but that's not necessarily true as we're coming out of lockdown all over the place. And today's sponsor will help you with that. It's Vaer Watches. Today's episode is presented by Vaer. Vaer was founded with the goal of building an affordable, everyday wristwatch that blends tasteful design with extreme durability and functionality. Vaer returns a sense of dignity to affordable wristwatches and are built to last. Vaer is a true American watch company specializing in both quartz and automatic watches. Vaer is offering our listeners 15% off if you use the code PODGO15. That's PODGO15. Go to vaerwatches.com to learn more and get your new timepiece today. Welcome back, Inebri-arts. This is Andy, the Inebri-art podcast, and I am still, to no one's surprise, recording from my home, unfortunately. But it is fortunate because we get to interview cool people that I wouldn't normally get to talk to. And part of what we've been doing to basically keep myself entertained is run some Zoom comedy shows with AJ Haypenny. And the last one, I think, was last Thursday, we had Peter Angelo on the show, and he's joining us today. Welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And that was a fun show, that Zoom show.
Yeah, it was it was really good. I think the first one we did, it was kind of like it felt more open micy, and people just kind of like working on
shit.
Yeah,
with this felt I can see that
doing like their normal set. But I had a good time. Yeah, I thought it was really good. It's good when I pretty much reach out to everybody on there and be like, hey, you want to be on the podcast? So how long have you been doing stand-up, and how'd you get into it?
It's actually 5.5 years now. I knew a guy down here in Connecticut who was running a lot of shows, and I kind of checked one out, and then I was kind of hanging around a lot. And so he just kind of had me working as a door guy. So essentially I get that a lot. Yeah. So I was the doorman for like a lot of these shows and whatnot. And like, I was always super into stand up, but like never thought I could do it. Yeah. And like he finally, to get me to do it, he essentially just put me on the flyer so I couldn't back out. So, and I did it the one time, it went really well. I was like, oh fuck, I'm going to keep doing this.
So how long was it before you had your first like bad performance, and how did you kind of get it? I'm assuming you had one. I'm not just
Yeah, no. Trust me, they've definitely been there. Like I don't know, I can't remember a specific one, like especially that far back. They kind of all blur together. Unfortunately, the bombs. I never really feel like, there's anything that was monumental that kind of happened about them. Yeah. I was just like, oh, that sucked. No one was like, fuck you or anything like that. Except until recently. I had a show recently that right before this all happened that I thought went well. It was a 2-man show. I was doing 30. Headliner was doing about an hour or so. And it was like it was up by the Great Lakes in upstate New York. Yeah. So we drove like 5 hours for this thing, and we had done a show the night before in Mass that I didn't think went that good. Like it didn't feel good to me, so I was kind of like feeling low about it a little bit. So the next night, this half hour, I felt pretty good. I wouldn't have done more than 20 if it was going shitty. I felt pretty good about it, So I was like, okay, that kind of wiped off the crud that I felt from the night before. And then the comic that I went with texted me the next day, or the Monday or whatever. And he's like, hey, can you call me when you get a chance? And I was like, oh, fuck. So it turns out the person running the show told the booker that they hated me and they never want me back.
Really?
Yeah, they were like, they complained that it was too much about being gay, and that was literally 10 minutes of a half hour set, if that, of my sexual orientation. But like, so they like should never come back. This and that. We don't want him here. We don't want that. We don't want. They said something like, we don't want a person like that here.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's so, people talk about like being in an echo chamber, and I think it's inevitable because like when I hear stuff like that, I'm always kind of like baffled. Like, I can't believe people still think that way.
Yeah. And it wasn't like, because we at first we thought like, oh, was I being too dirty or too vulgar? But I wasn't. The comic who was with me like said like, he was like, I was way more dirty and offensive. I was talking about old people fucking,
but straight old people.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. But it's funny too is the show that I thought went worse, like a bunch of people from that show added me on Facebook and stuff like that. I was like, okay, I think they liked me, but I didn't really hear them laughing that much.
Yeah.
But like it was, and the funny thing, it was that show was like a veterans fundraiser, so it was a very like.
Oh, so I feel like it would be less surprising to hear that there.
Yeah, that's why this whole thing confused the hell out of me.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't know what to believe.
Especially from a booker. You think a booker would be a little more.
Well, the booker, it was like someone was running an event in this town.
Yeah.
They knew of this guy. So he just booked them a headliner, and then the headliner basically said, hey, I'm bringing someone with me that I bring people with all the time. The booker was fine. And the booker, because the comic that brought me vouched for me as well.
Yeah.
And the booker was like fine because we had another one the following weekend. So the booker was worried about if I was the one going, if it was me going up. But, obviously my friend did a comic vouched for me, and he, and the next show went great. It was also like fucking forever away in upstate New York.
That's so bonkers. But I mean,
yeah, I was at that point. I was mad. I was like, why can't they just say shit to my face? And someone was like, Pete, have you seen your face?
Yeah, you're not the kind of guy you look like a bouncer,
Yeah, exactly. I'm covered in tattoos. I'm 300 pounds.
At what point did you start talking about your sexuality on stage? Was that something you did from the beginning, or
no? I didn't do it from the beginning. It had to have been like 2.5 years in. I want to say. I was finally like, I was like, there's too much funny shit contrasting with how I look and all that stuff. I was like, I gotta talk about it. Another comic, the one who took me to those are the shows. He told me, he's like, you talk about that stuff, it's gonna like change everything. It's gonna be huge for you.
Yeah.
And he was right. It did a ton. And like it's not even just like, oh, now you have that thing. People be like, oh, we have this comic as like a diverse thing. It just helps me overall because I'm being more honest. I don't feel like, I'm more comfortable. I'm comfortable but not comfortable just because of how that show went. But like, it just being more honest about yourself, even in that one aspect, for some reason it translates over so that like everything I talk about just feels more honest and open. And for me, that's the kind of comedy I like. And that's what I like doing. I like talking about like, how that weird shit has kind of affected my life.
I think it was some of the funniest stuff from your set the other night. And I think it was more, I think people are generally funnier when they're reflecting on themselves and not people, because other people then it can be kind of like bullying, or you can go too far when you're like, oh, if I'm saying about myself, only I can get upset.
Yeah, really. Yeah, and that's funny that people will find like things to be upset about. Even like, I'm just talking about me, like it's fine. But it also, I think you gotta almost expect that comics are such narcissists. It's like, everyone shut up and listen to me.
Yeah. What do you think of, like, you say they're nice narcissists. Do you think it's, I don't mean this in a bad way. I want to say like they really enjoy attention. I don't want to say like attention seeking, but.
Well, that's a narcissist.
Yeah. Oh, I know. But like, I mean,
I don't know. Cause like everyone always tries to play that trope of like comics are like, they didn't get this as a kid or whatever broken thing. I don't think that's necessarily true. Like, there's so many like varying reasons of why. Like sometimes in my I was a middle child.
Yeah.
So like I always joke that like, oh, this is my way of finally making up for the lack of attention I got.
Mm-hmm.
But like I got fine attention. I don't, I just always. I just always gravitate like, oh my God, that's such a cool thing. Like go up on stage and then just talk, and your thoughts make everyone else feel better, no matter how like painful they are.
And it's funny is because it's like, people generally think of stand-up comedians in that light, but it's like all performers. Like performers don't get up on stage and go, "Oh man, I hope no one pays attention to me."
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Like who we,
it's like there's just a rush to it, like too, like it's such a cool feeling when it's going well. When it's.
Did you ever suffer from stage fright and kind of having to kind of get over that?
No, not really. Like, because I still get nervous before like most shows, but I didn't have some real fear of getting up in front and just like trying it. I was pretty open to it. So like I didn't have to, like drink myself stupid, like, which I've tried. It doesn't work that well. And at least for me,
I feel like that would be very good.
Oh, just some comics, they're just like, I'm gonna get hammered and do it, and some of them are fucking awesome when they do it. Because I once saw a guy who is a fucking hilarious comic, that like he would get shit faces on these shows, and even just open mics, whatever. As at a small little dive bar show, I think we're doing roast battles, but he literally did the same setup 6 times.
Who is it? Patton Oswalt does a bit.
Oh, the heroin addict who comes in and like
Pepper, yeah,
like the Pepper does the whole bit, but like while coming in and out of consciousness.
Yeah,
it was very like reminiscent of that, and it was so awesome because he was so drunk. He would like get to the point where the punchline is, and then just revert back to the beginning again. And it happened 6 times. It was one of those like 3rd time super funny, 4th time hilarious, 5th time it's getting old, 6th time hilarious again.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. It's just like Doug Stanhope, I think, is really funny, but sometimes I've seen him do stand up, and you're just like, he's borderline incoherent. And you're like,
oh yeah, right.
It's like I don't want to wait for you to remember where it screws up the time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of like that's the beauty of like being at that level. Like people just come to see you, even if it's like dog shit.
Yeah,
because they know like eventually you're just like working shit out.
I also feel like Doug Stanhope's audience is generally as high as he is. So.
Oh fuck yeah!
When he's like, "Wait, what?"
Absolutely. I love Stanhope.
I think, like I said, I think some of the stuff he does is really funny, but sometimes it's so high, you're like, just get to the joke. So how do you go about writing your material? Like,
I am such a
life, but
I always like criticize myself. I feel like I'm such a piece of shit. Like I'm not like a studious comic where like people have like full notebooks and like I try to write an hour a day. I can't. I don't know why. I'm literally just like I'll be at work and just be bullshitting thoughts through my head, and then I'll think like, oh, something that happened to me way back when, and I'll usually just like jot it into my phone like a couple words, nothing even like crazy, and then just literally just try spitballing the rest of it as I go, and then just for a chance I get an open mic, start kind of, spewing out whatever I can. So like my writing process is fucking terrible. I'm so envious of like people who are like legit good joke writers. But I was just like, I thought I was like, Mike Tyson has a gay voice, and then I'm just gonna go with that. And like,
but then do you try to kind of like almost like run the set through your head, kind of being like,
oh, absolutely, yeah, totally. But that's more so for me trying to remember.
Yeah. Because
I fucking forget so much. Like that's one of the things that's usually my like more than like stage fright. My big fear is like forgetting it. So like I'm like telling myself over and over and over like what each thing is, and it just I still forget. Like I'll come off stage and be like, "Fuck, I forgot this whole fucking joke."
Oh shit! Someone I just saw recently. Now I'm trying to remember. Did a bit about how they did the callback at the end of a joke or at the end of a performance. And as soon as the callback came out, they're like, I never fucking told that joke.
Yeah, fuck. I know you specifically were talking.
Yeah.
I can't fucking remember. I actually did that when I was, I got to do my first feature spot at the Stress Factory in Bridgeport. And it was like a real, like, last minute, like, day before I got the offer and stuff like that. And they didn't know when the headliner was going to show up because his plane was, like, just landing as the show was starting. So they're like, Pete, you got to do, like, 15 to 20, but maybe a half hour.
Oh, geez.
I was like, oh, that's really hard to plan for. But, like, I remember doing a joke where I specifically, like, I have, it has a callback, and I had totally forgotten, like, the setup to it.
Yeah.
But I didn't acknowledge it. I was just like, I'm too much of a schmuck to, like, smoothly tell them. I'm just going to hope they ignore what I said.
Or just be like, that was a fucking weird statement.
Yeah, what? In a string of weird sentences, that was the weirdest.
So what is the kind of ideal time for your set? Do you prefer to kind of work short, like 15?
I've been enjoying, like, doing 15s.
Yeah.
But I want to start. I have some stuff coming up that I'm supposed to be doing like 25, 30 because I want to try and build it. But I think I have a really strong 15 as of right now, which is good because I'm starting to get like hosting spots, stuff like that. But I really want to build it up past a half hour, which I've done here and there, but not enough to be like feel like, all right, this is really strong. This is the order it's supposed to be in. Because people, like, a lot of comics are real critical about like what order stuff comes in. Mm-hmm. That's another one that I've always had a tough time feeling out, like why something works so much better following a certain joke, and vice versa. Without the right order, it could like make a good set shitty. For the life of me, I can't figure out how it's.
Do you kind of like to work off the crowd at all? I know, like, depending on the comic, some comics will just kind of, obviously they get the response from the audience, but don't really acknowledge or speak to them like on a one-on-one basis. And then there's other ones.
I definitely. Yeah, I don't have a ton that's like really in need of the crowd. And I never considered myself being like the crowd work as being my strength.
Yeah.
I'm all right at it. I've had some weird instances where, people, especially when I like when I do a first show, like coming out, and then people are like, "What the fuck?" Like this. Usually, you might get some like weird responses and stuff like that, or dudes who get like real uptight about it.
Yeah.
I did tell a guy his son probably sucks cock.
And how was his response to that?
He was just started laughing because his son, like he said, like his sense is he like repeated to me that like some homophobic thing his son once said about like, if you suck dick, you're this or that. And I was like, sir, your son sucks dick. You might want to have a conversation. That's what closet cases say.
Yeah.
But yeah, like most of my stuff, and I don't do a lot of the like, hey, have you guys like done this thing? I have like one or two of those on occasion, and I still feel like kind of weird. Like when I do it, like who's done 23 and me? All that usual shit. That's about like the case, because I tried a couple times, like ask someone what they do and they say it and you're like, I got nothing. That was weird. I don't know what that
was. And I mean, if we're not, if you're a narcissist, that's taking the
it's like, fuck you, I don't care what you do.
Guys,
Talking about me. I'm on stage, lights, microphone, me.
So I mean, back in the 80s and 90s, it seemed like the stand-up comedy thing was a stepping stone to like a sitcom.
Oh yeah.
Like, what is the Pete Angelo plan for the future? Do you have like the Pete Angelo show in mind, or?
I started a podcast. I did that.
Okay.
But no, I don't have like a.
That's required by law here.
That's what I said. I was like, there's not enough of them, right? Let me do another one. I just made sure that I just like, all right, I'm not even talking about comedy. We're going to talk about music, even though I have no musical ability whatsoever.
You can still appreciate music.
I know it's half appreciation, half like mocking, because it's basically we just take albums we listened to from when we were teenagers and see if we still like them in the same way, or if we hate ourselves for it.
No, see, I super respect that, because I follow a lot of podcast groups online. And one of them today, someone's like, "Oh, what's the most important thing about, starting a podcast, and people are like, oh, consistency, sound quality, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, have an angle,
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we're a geek podcast. We're going to talk about nerd things. But like, yeah, you and a million other people.
Yeah.
What is your angle? Like, how are you different? And I just feel like even stand-up comics, you have the famous people, Bill Burr and Two Bears, One Cave. They're have listeners because they have fans, but it's like, and I'm not
already established.
But
not enough to make a fan base out of.
But it's just like, come up with an angle, do something interesting.
Yeah, that's the thing is, one, I like talking. I do like when podcasts like do that, like the ones I listen to a lot of times are like, here's our thing.
Yeah.
And but I like talking about music. I like talking about music that I both like, but also can be critical of and make jokes at the expense of. Yeah. But I want to make jokes about something that like I still have a connection to, because I don't want it to be like I'm just gonna shit on this thing to be a fucking asshole. It's like, no, I liked this thing at least at one point. Right. So anything I say about them is still talking shit about me, because I think
it's still that kind of reflecting in on yourself.
Yeah, because to me, if you're gonna make fun of things, you have to be willing to make fun of the things you like too.
Yeah.
So like we're talking about a lot of like new metal bands in the early 2000s. Pop punk and stuff like that. Like, and not even that it's any of it does it. We're not going into it like this is bad or good. We're just like, haven't heard it in a long time. Let's see. So far, I've been enjoying most of the shit I listened to from back then. I haven't gotten anything like too bad.
Well, let me ask you a question, and it's kind of one of my favorite like barroom questions to ask. Like, you get into a group of people that maybe don't know each other that well. And I've actually asked this to a couple bands I've interviewed, but what is the concert that you attended that you're most embarrassed to say that you've attended?
Oh, that's okay, easy. It's Nickelback.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a really good one.
It was junior year in high school.
Wow.
So they weren't quite the joke yet.
Yeah.
That they are. Because that was like 07. 06, 07.
And this is the thing, is I have a friend of mine that has a steady music gig when things are normal here in Plymouth, and he plays Nickelback. And he kind of does it, kind of jokingly, but then at the end, he's like, see, I knew it. All you motherfuckers are singing along. You all like it. Just admit that you like it. And it kind of, I think it's cooler to say you don't like them opposed to just being like, oh, some of their songs are catchy, but they're not really my thing.
Yeah. Because the thing too is there's a reason Nickelback is famous, because they specifically Chad Kroeger was like, oh, I figured out the exact like thing to make a radio hit song that was the millions. I don't care whether it's good or not, but I figured out the formula exactly, and I'm gonna fucking use it.
Right.
And so, like, I'm like, well, at least he's fucking honest. He knows he's not making fucking great works of art here.
Yeah, people being like, you suck. He's like, yeah, all the way to the bank.
Yeah, with your money.
Yeah, so it's very funny.
Plus, I'm petitioning to make Trapped the new Nickelback.
Who?
Trapped.
I don't think I know them.
The bit Headstrong. Headstrong, I'll take you on. Look it up. You'll fucking know what I'm talking about. Right. Basically, that guy's been a real piece of shit online.
Oh, okay.
And his music is terrible across the board. Like,
Trapped.
Not even like, at least Nickelback was trying something, but yeah.
Was there any albums that you were revisiting that you were like, oh shit, I forgot how good this was? Or
nothing that really, none of the ones so far that like blew me away of my picks.
Yeah.
They've all been real. Like, it's been, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to remember each one that we did. Yeah, of my picks, they were all like, all right, this is solid. Nothing like that really crazy blew me away. And I'm still trying to see like where my connection was to it as good now, because now I'm super into death metal and thrash metal and stuff like that. So like Papa Roach's Getting Away with Murder isn't really hitting me the same way anymore.
Yeah.
But we just recorded our new metal, our real new metal episode yesterday, and it was Papa Roach's Infest, Limp Bizkit's Significant Other, and Linkin Park's Meteora.
See, I don't dislike Limp Bizkit all that much. Like I feel like
I don't either.
All over him.
I think
it's phenomenal, but you
know. No, but they got I don't know. They got some bangers, but then they got some real cringy shit. No, so like, but we just figured, those are like, I was a huge Papa Roach fan. Who can say that? That's the weirdest statement ever.
That's pretty weird.
Yeah, right.
Because I can remember like one song.
Yeah, right. And I had the first 4 fucking albums. But so to look back on, like, it's been a lot of fun, and it's been nice kind of having something to kind of focus on and think about critically. And it's been a lot of fun. So we'll usually I have a co-host who does it with me. We each pick an album, and then we get like a guest, either a comic or a musician.
Yeah. And
they pick an album. We listen to those albums like leading up to the recording. And then, we just talk about them, how we feel about them now compared to how we did then, how it held up. Did they age well? Could they do well now? Like, how much of like a time capsule of the year that it came out in? I guess AC/DC's Highway to Hell was probably the one that like still hits me.
Man, AC/DC's just lost on me. Just don't get it.
Like from the get-go?
I mean, they're fine. Like
it's just like, hey, let's play these 3 chords over and over, and we just alternate either sex, drugs, the devil. Yeah, I saw them live. It was fucking awesome.
But yeah, I don't know. Just never. I never disliked them, but just never did anything for me. Which is.
Do you like things more technical? Is that way?
No, because I like everything around them.
That is weird. Maybe you just hate Australian people. Or you don't like midgets.
Midgets.
Angus Young is like 5'2".
Oh, okay. I'm like, who's a midget?
They're all kind of midget.
No, because I even Midnight Oil is an obscure Australian band, and I like them. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the schoolboy outfit. I have no idea.
That is unnerving, especially now.
Oh yeah, now it's like, dude, you can cut.
You're 68 years old. Let's stop. Let's put on some big boy pants, man. Come on.
Yeah.
Now you just look like a ghoul.
Yeah, it's music's always an interesting thing. It's like I've been re-experiencing music and movies through my kids. Throughout their lives, and it's always interesting because sometimes you're like, ooh, we're gonna sit down and watch this movie, and like 20 minutes in you're like, or we can shut this off because this is
are we saying is that like your pick or like their pick?
Usually it's mine. I mean, and
you're like, fuck,
if they pick something, I'm like, I'm not gonna tell them it's terrible. I'm gonna let them enjoy what they like.
It sucks,
but just sometimes
prove your taste.
You're like, you gotta watch this. I love this growing up, and then you watch it, and you're like, ooh, God, this is why did I
I've had some of those, especially shows.
Yeah.
A lot of the shows I like to be a kid. I've tried to. I'll be like, oh my God, it's on a streaming service. And I watch it. I'm like, this fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Why did I like? If I want to go back in time and kick my own ass for this.
But they constantly surprise me. Like my daughter's one of her favorite bands is Nirvana.
Interesting.
And I'm like, that's weird. I didn't expect you to come across that on your own, but sure. So yeah, it's a definite interesting experience to relive it kind of through their eyes and see what they go, yeah, no, this is really good. And I'm like, ugh, no. And then you have to, I get it. I realize that. So.
Why did I like this? What's wrong with me?
Do you ever take things from your podcast and be like, oh, this might be a bit that should work on stage and kind of?
Not yet. But only because we started the podcast after all this shit started.
Oh, so it's really...
it's really... We haven't even released the first... We're releasing the first couple episodes this weekend. We recorded 6 to have a couple in the bank.
Oh,
and then we're gonna release like 3 of them, or two of them, like either tonight or tomorrow, whenever I get that thing squared away. So yeah, we did I like this?
Did I like this? I'm assuming it's going to be...
it should be on Spotify and all that, pretty much shit, all that goodness. So hopefully people enjoy. Yeah, the first episode, I picked Kryptonite The Better Life from Three Doors Down, and my co-host picked. Was that the bullet? I think it was Bullet for My Valentine. Scream Aim Fire. And That was, I asked my buddy, this comic out of Connecticut, Ish Gupta, who's a couple years younger than me, so I thought it was a nice, wanted to be like a nice kind of, my phase at 14 is probably much different than his phase at 14,
right?
Because of the 4-year gap. Like I feel like the music kind of changed a little bit, and we have enough crossover that we do have a similar enjoyment of some of the same things, but then a broad enough difference too, where it still keeps it interesting, and us just not like echoing things to each other. Plus, he's a funny comic and always a fun time to talk to.
Nice.
Then we bring on guests, and they pick an album, then I get mad about it. I haven't gotten too mad yet. I got mad at one pick when we had to listen to Hollywood Undead.
I was gonna say wait until you get the one guy who's like comes on and when you're like, why'd you pick that? And be like, I don't know. I just wanted you to listen to something terrible.
Someone is probably.
I don't even like that. I've never even listened to it. It just seemed like a bad idea.
Someone is definitely going to do that to me. I know it.
So it sounds like you were starting to like really kind of, get going up to upstate New York, and were you touring the whole country or just kind of the eastern?
No. I was just whatever I was getting, mostly in the Northeast. Like I was just starting to break into Boston a little bit.
Yeah,
Connecticut's tough because we only have like a couple of clubs, and if you're not in the certain circuit of comics they pick, it's tough to get in. But I was heading to Boston a couple times, every other week, stuff like that. I had some stuff coming up at the Comedy Studio, had some stuff in New Hampshire, so I was starting to at least become decently known, for like a middle feature kind of guy, host around New England, which I was more than happy about. It took a little while, and so finally getting that was like a nice bump. It was like, okay, things seem to be going in the right direction.
Is it clicky at all? Like, are there certain areas where like, oh, you gotta like know someone to kind of get into that area?
Yes, I really have never run into that much of a problem with it. I don't know why. I can usually kind of find my way into whatever groups is going on. I haven't had too many issues with people. I don't know if it's because I'm frightening.
Whatever you want, sir. Don't hurt me.
Yeah. They're also like, look at this. This guy's queer and looks like that, and whatever. What the fuck is this? Like, I don't even know anymore. Just let him in. Like, so I don't know. I haven't, and I know those things exist because people always fucking talk about them.
Yeah.
Connecticut's so small though, you can't really get away with it. So so like going to other cities, as long as you're good
across Connecticut, it is not small.
Yes, it is. I can from one end to the other in an hour.
It is like 8 hours to drive across it.
You drove to the wrong Connecticut. It feels like it is. It's a different fucking story.
Yeah.
But people, luckily, when I go out of state a decent amount, like more than most other Connecticut comics, so I don't get I necessarily like people. If people have like a negative opinion about Connecticut comics, I'm not necessarily listed as one. They're just like, oh, Pete's just that guy who kind of runs on his own and is all over the place. So I don't let. I've gotten to the point where I think I haven't let. If someone has a negative thought about like a certain scene,
yeah, like
Connecticut or whatever, I don't usually get kind of lumped in with it for whatever reason. Maybe because they see me more and they're not going by whatever Facebook bullshit, they heard. So,
do you feel that's more on the booker promoter end or the audience end? I feel like the audience wouldn't be kind of into the drama,
Oh yeah, no, they don't have a clue. It's all on the end, and it's not even book. It's all because like so many bookers are comics and vice versa. And it's a lot of comics running their show, so it's all there is a new thing happening like every fucking 2 days with like some weird drama thing. Don't get me wrong, it's great reading material on Facebook. Like, I just for a while what I was doing was I was skimming through it, and anytime someone said something remotely gay, I would just pop in and be like, what'd you say? I'm here.
So that's my face.
No, not even just that. It was just like, someone mentioned cock. I mean, yeah, everyone, I guess it's clicky, but I've never had a problem like navigating those waters. It's just, you gotta just know who not to piss off, and just don't be a piece of shit.
Yeah,
it's that easy. Don't be a piece of shit especially if you're going like out of state to mics and shows and stuff like that. Don't be fucking spitting on people.
And sometimes I feel like if you
I don't know, you kind of get what you ask for. Like if you involve yourself in the drama, then you get drama. If you're just kind of like,
yeah,
that's not my problem. You guys work it out. And
yeah, it's like I'm not. Why would I bother with this? Like,
yeah.
But I think it's that narcissism because it seems like some people just love to fucking do that.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah, it's crazy.
There's such narcissists that like we talk about one thing and somehow it's like this argument that's spawned just between two people just because they need everyone to fucking read their shit.
Yeah.
And we do because we're broken.
And then it rolls into something completely different. And like 3 days later, you're like, how are we even here? This was about.
It's like this is 300 comments and like this. Wow, how'd you guys get to like the conflict of the Middle East?
When we were talking about
from which,
it makes no sense.
like.
Do you kind of look back and wish that you had started soon? I mean, you're a fairly young dude.
I'm 30. Started when I was about 25. Sometimes, you have that thought, like maybe you'll see a kid who's like 19, 20 doing a year and he's already like pretty solid.
Yeah.
And you're like, fuck, I wish I kind of started that young. But at the same time, I was like, what the fuck would I have talked about when I was 19? I had nothing. I didn't know what I was going to talk about. Like, I'm sad. Yeah, we know. Like, I don't know what I would talk about. So, like, 25 felt like a pretty good time. I had a little bit of life experience. I was still young and naive to be like, I can do this. And so, yeah, I don't think I would have been. I don't think it would have been great for me to start that young because I have some friends who did. And they're fucked up because of
it. And do you?
Oh fuck! We did a show,
yeah,
and there was this kid that like none of us had ever seen. There was a bunch of people who'd been in the scene for 5 years, and kid not a lot of the scene. I guess he was just starting out, and he had said something about his age, and we kind of blew it off. He was young looking, but whatever. He could be one of those 22, 23-year-olds who just looks 16 for their entire fucking like. And so we were like, whatever. And then someone mentioned a year, and then another comic turned to him and she said like, wait, what year were you born in? And he goes, 2002. And we were like, you were born after 9/11?
Yeah, and then you have to like start doing the math, and you're like, what the? Yeah.
I was like, you're 17, and we all just went, oh my god. We were like, what's he gonna talk about? He did talk about him being like conceived 9 months after 9/11. So like, it must have been like this weird, sad sex that conceived him.
Yeah.
Or it was like one of those, the world is ending and I just want to live again.
We're going to repopulate the world.
I hope this one kid we have fucking lives up to something.
Do you ever like write a joke and it not go over, but you kind of be like, no, there's something funny there, and just either keep it in the set or keep going back to it and be like, no, it's going to work. I just got to figure out the right, sting to it.
There's definitely been plenty of those, but there's also like, there's so many that I have that thought, like I keep trying and like nothing, and I scrap it for months. And then, you're at the right show where like, there's nothing here. Like this show is bullshit. I'm going to try this thing. And just, you keep trying. Okay. They never work. Like I haven't like, because they're all on my phone. I haven't deleted anything from them. So it's just pages of just, at least that just dog shit, just so much crap just written on my phone. I will look at some of them and be like, I can't even remember what I'm talking about.
You're like,
there's actually one specifically, and I'm trying to figure it out. I was in a writer's room and I was going through my notes and I was like, what the fuck was I talking about with this? I'm actually trying to find one of them now.
Is that the point where you're like, maybe I should write these in a notebook a little more?
I go through those phases so much, but I can't write them out. Like I have some people who like write the whole fucking joke out. I can't. It never sounds right. I change wordings so much that writing it out like almost just makes my brain explode.
But I mean, that's kind of one of those finding what works for you things. Like,
yeah, absolutely. That's just the way some people are.
Yeah, I mean, I have a podcast. We stream stuff online. We're not the most tech-savvy person in the world, but I'm not a, Luddite either. But I have to have a paper calendar. Like, I can't use the calendar on my phone. It just doesn't work for me. I never look at it. and like it's almost like my security blanket. Like I walk around
Yeah.
my calendar almost all the time, and people ask me, I'm like, if it's not written in my calendar, I don't know. And if it's without my calendar, don't ask me because I don't know.
I did write. One of my notes, I just wrote answering machine. I don't know why.
Was it the idea of its obsolescence, or were you trying to
like things we don't need anymore.
So you started recording your podcast. Were you completely foreign to it? Like,
pretty much. I'd only ever been. No, okay. I'm sorry, I was wrong. Me and another guy did start a podcast called Lame Gravy.
Okay,
but we had no we didn't know why we made it.
Yeah,
we had no
let's just get together and talk kind of things.
Yeah, and I was like, and we just kind of stopped because there was kind of no real passion behind it.
But I mean,
we had the best artwork though. We had someone made us an artwork, and it was just a gravy, and it just had a statue of a Buddha and a pentagram, and just a joint in it or something like that.
Weird.
He made it so good. I don't know why we call I don't know why we call it Lame Gravy. But the guy who made it for us, the artwork looked really good to the point I'm still kind of mad that someone made something so nice for something so shitty that didn't work.
Well, I feel like that's the time you go out and you get a Lame Gravy t-shirt made.
Oh my God. People would
be like, what's Lame Gravy? And you'd be like, what do you mean you don't know of Lame Gravy? And just kind of leave them hanging.
People start looking for Googling it, start buying the shirt, but just me sending them out.
Yeah. That's that's pretty much how Johnny Cupcakes got started.
Oh, that's right.
He just made himself a t-shirt and people were like, what's that? So are you doing all your editing yourself or
my co-host he's a little more savvy in that area.
It's nice to have someone do all the heavy lifting because I don't have to do the
pretty much. Thank God he knew how to do that because I didn't, and I didn't know that he knew how to do it when I asked him. I just you have microphones.
Yeah, my editor / producer is the socially inept one. So he's like, you talk to people, I'll just edit things. So that's kind of how it's worked out.
That's you're all right.
Yeah, fine, all right.
I'll do the easier one.
Yeah.
And I was I told him, I don't know how you do it. I could not listen to me talk. I can't listen to me talk.
Yeah.
I have a tough time with that.
It takes some getting used to. I'm used to. I mean, we've been doing it so long. Yeah. I'm used to hearing myself, but he can't stand to hear me talk now, and we're best friends. So
I am so sick of your fucking voice in my head.
It's like he's here right now. Because we've gone out, and people are are you guys angry? You guys are just sitting there in silence, and I'm like, I don't want to talk because he doesn't want to hear me, and I should be I am so tired of hearing his voice.
That's so fucked up.
So it's if you don't have something important to say, it's you just sit there quietly and have a beer. I
don't want to hear mindless chatter from you anymore.
Oh, the funniest was it was back in February, and I have a bad habit of calling Valentine's Day, and I said it during a podcast, and he flips it's Valentine's Day, I'll kill you, and I'm all right, go ahead. And then of course I'm now that I know that it makes you mad, I'm just going to say it more.
Well, naturally.
Yeah. So things here in Mass are starting to kind of open up a little bit. Some of my musician friends said they're starting to talk with people about booking gigs. Are you seeing that coming down the pipeline, or?
Yeah, I've already seen some comics doing some outdoor stuff. It's definitely doable. They're eating outside. It's very easy to just have someone with a PA system just come to the edge of the area wherever there's people are set up. It's really doable. I mean, the only downside is the laughter kind of doesn't travel well. It disperses very much outdoors, but it's hey, fucking, there's people. Take what we can get at this point.
Oh my God! I'm
so I definitely
happy to see people.
Yeah, right. I definitely see it. Yeah, it'll be coming back. It'll be a little weird when it goes inside. That'll definitely be weird too because you just don't. We don't know how many people are ready to really go into groups yet.
Right.
There's still going to be some of that, So I definitely can see it taking a little while, but at the same time, people are like, I got to get the fuck out of the house. Like, I got to do whatever I can.
It's to the point where, it's like maybe not even making the best decisions just for human contact, where you're like,
yeah, right.
I don't care. I'll risk it.
I just can't stare at these four walls anymore.
Yeah. I was walking down, so I kind of live in like a little suburban area right near Plymouth Rock, and I was walking down the street, and this girl was like, "Can I ask you a question?" And I'm like, "Sure." And she goes, "Can I ice you?" And she holds out a Smirnoff Ice, and I'm like, "Fuck it, why not?" If this is how I get it, it'll be a good story. Do you find yourself kind of putting yourself into unusual situations, weird situations, or like weird groups to be like, hey, this might be funny?
God, I have legit thought about that. I don't think I do, but I just like weird people in general, so it just does seem to happen. I'm also friends with morons, so that doesn't. Like I had a friend who was like, with all this crazy shit, and he can barely feed himself. He's like, but the cats are always fed. And he's like, we have 13. I'm like, you can barely feed yourself. Why do you have 13 cats? They rented a U-Haul to drive to court.
They rented a U-Haul to drive to court?
Yeah, because apparently that was cheaper than an Uber.
Well, U-Haul's like, what, $20 a day?
I don't know.
That makes sense, I guess.
I guess. It was still weird.
Oh, it's very weird.
Plus being a metalhead, I go to all the weird, crazy shows. So you kind of like, I never really thought like I would have to put myself into danger at this point to me. Like, I just can't do it. I'm too like at 30. I'm done trying to put myself in danger.
Well, no, I mean you can put yourself in like, going to the library and joining the book club, or
if that stems the story from my act,
putting yourself in weird situations, not necessarily.
Well, what I'm saying is, I don't think there's like weird. There's enough that is like I'd consider real weird, like that. I'd actively be like, let me do that bullshit in the hopes of a story. At least I haven't come across any yet. Although, who knows? Maybe I have, but I'm such a fucking idiot. I'm like, that wasn't weird at all.
Yeah, it was fun.
That was completely normal.
Where can people go online to check out your stuff? Do you have a YouTube channel?
I don't have a YouTube channel, but I do post most of my like dates and stuff like that on my Instagram. Metal Pete Comedy on Instagram, or you follow me, comedian Peter Angelo, on Facebook. It's usually where I'll post all my stuff. That's where I'll be posting a lot of I'll post a lot of the podcast stuff to my Instagram and links on my Facebook and all that stuff. I haven't set up a social media yet for it because I'm the worst millennial. I'm bad at being a millennial. I guess I'm a good millennial to boomers.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, what makes a good and bad millennial? Like,
well, they hate millennials who are like lazy and don't work, and they're too much into technology, and they don't like racism.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think that's the only time I got like mad at my kids. One of them was like, "Okay, boomer." I'm like, "Listen, I'm not a boomer. I'm Gen X."
You call me an Xer.
Yeah, get it right. I don't want to be lumped in with those guys. But no, it's just fun. Thanks for hanging out and chit chat with us for a bit.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And,
I had a good time.
I'm gonna have to check out the new show.
Absolutely. The first episode should be out either tonight or tomorrow.
Cool.
Most likely tomorrow.
I'll have to check it out. Yeah. So
I appreciate
it. /comedy fans should check it out, and they should check you out whenever you happen to be traveling to their area. And that's pretty much it, man. That's the show. So.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, and hopefully we'll have you back on the non-essential comedy show. That's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'll anytime.
I have figured out how to stream it to Facebook, so we're going to start doing that as well.
Nice.
So we should get a bigger crowd. And that's cool, man. We'll see you next time.
Night.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. You can find us on all social medias at Inebri-art, except for Instagram, we're at Inebri-art6. You can email us with your questions, complaints, and whatnot at Inebri-art@yahoo.com. And if you're looking for more podcasts, you can check out the other podcasts on our network, Retro Redoctopus, America's Hometown Horror, and, of course, Bar Talk, Old Colony, and Inebri-art Podcast, the original. So check those out and subscribe and comment so we can reach more people, and thanks for listening.